President Trump outmaneuvering Democrats once again in the battle for immigration reform. The president now saying that he's open to a path for citizenship for Dreamers, a move softening the stance of some Democrats. I mean, some Democrats obviously now have to be worried. How are they going to vote against this? The White House is set to propose officially the immigration plan on Monday. And apparently it would include a path to citizenship for about 1.8 million individuals, according to sources. With me now on my panel, Emily Jashinsky, Washington Examiner commentary writer, back with us, Capri, Cafaro, and Deneen Borelli. And ladies, before we start, I've got a poll on Twitter at CV Payne. So far, about 3,000 people have voted. 39% think it's a great deal. 30% think it's a terrible deal. 31% not sure. Here's the thing, Emily. People are grappling with the notion that President Trump, they don't know that he ran on as citizenship for these DACA recipients, even if he gets $25 billion in return. What are your thoughts?
I think it's really important for people to be taking the temperature of President Trump's base, Republicans, the conservative movement as a whole, because this really could cause some divisions. Now, I don't think it's going to be a massive, huge issue because DACA in and of itself is fairly narrow. And I think legislation that remains narrow, that's something Senator Marco Rubio said today, something that's narrow and focused, I think that is beneficial. But at the same time, President Trump himself really needs to be taking the temperature of his base because, if you go to the front page of Breitbart, for instance, he could be having some problems.
Yeah, I mean, Deneen, to that point, if Rubio likes this, okay, then automatically people are going to say amnesty. And remember, during the course of the election process, President Trump beat Rubio up a lot with respect to amnesty.
I think this is part of President Trump, his art of the deal. He's negotiating. He's putting things and ideas on the table. I also think he has Chuck Schumer in a spot. He's got him in a box. He's playing with him like a mouse because he's putting out all these ideas. But on the other hand, Schumer, it's the Schumer sandwich. Last week we saw the Schumer shutdown.
Right.
Now it's the Schumer sandwich because he had protesters on his front step just the other day who want citizenship. And on the other hand, you got the resist movement. So he's in a box.
He is in a box, Capri.
Well, I mean, and he's already backed down on the wall. I mean, just a few days ago, Chuck Schumer said, well, I offered this wall deal in my initial conversations with President Trump, but now I don't want to talk about the wall anymore because the progressive wing of my party was extremely upset about this. I think the bottom line that what is going to happen with all of this is that ultimately, while the President of the United States can state his position, it has to get through both chambers of Congress. And I've already seen, just to talk about Twitter, I did a cursory look of my Twitter feed. You have Democrats saying that this is tantamount to giving a middle finger to Latin America. You have Republicans saying that President Trump's deal is giving
citizenship
away
for
the farm.
DACA, for the DACA kids is a middle finger?
In exchange for the wall specifically, the end to chain migration, the concessions that would have to be given for the 1.3 however million individuals that would potentially have a path to citizenship. I think that the very conservative wing of the Republican Party and the progressives in the Democratic Party, particularly in the House, are not going to back down. I don't see this even coming out of the Senate. And I think maybe that's why President Trump is putting it out there saying I was willing to deal and nobody else was willing to deal.
Well, Emily, you wrote a piece in the last couple of days that President Trump is still outmaneuvering Democrats with respect to these sort of open negotiations. Certainly, they overplayed their hand with thinking that a mean-spirited word was enough, to shut down the government, and America would be okay with that. I don't know. I kind of disagree with Capri on this. I think this is the ultimate offer. I don't see how Chuck Schumer can go to those dreamers who are outside of his house at midnight with pitchforks and explain to them, I turned down this deal.
Well, and it's so interesting to look at the movement of progressives on this issue, because if you flash back to September, Nancy Pelosi, who was talking about striking a deal on DACA with President Trump, who looked perfectly willing to negotiate with her and to pass what they wanted, was shouted down by her own base when she was trying to do what they wanted, just because she was in a conversation with President Trump. And
look, I would make this deal. As a Democrat, I would make this deal.
Right. But I think the movement of the base and the pressure of the base is such that they're actually going to impede progress that is beneficial to them because they have hardened so far on the left.
They would be overplaying their hands. Now, as far as the conservatives are concerned, Deneen, a lot of people tweeted at me and said they don't really like the deal, but if it included an end-to-chain migration, merit-based migration from here, and some other things that are bothering folks, then it would be acceptable to people who otherwise would say no. Do you think this could squeeze through on the conservative side?
It's really hard to tell, Charles, because I've looked at some polls as well, and there are a lot of Americans, overwhelming number of Americans who don't want the DACA people to be citizens. They don't want an overwhelming number of people to immigrate into the country.
But they do want them to, they're okay with them staying here, but they're not necessarily a path to citizenship, the ability to vote.
Citizens and vote.
A lot of people think ultimately that changes the dynamics of a Texas and a Florida, perhaps in Arizona.
Right.
And of course, Capri, as a Democrat, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
No, but I don't think that the entire efforts on behalf of the DACA population is there to provide a greater voting base for the Democratic Party. I think those of us who have sympathy, and I think we all have sympathy for those that have been brought here through no fault of their own, see this more as an issue of human dignity, not necessarily one of politics. But of course, as everything happens here in the swamp, it becomes political.
All right, ladies, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.